Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back with another fun-filled video for you. And again, another Kershaw discontinued knife. I wasn't going to do this one tonight. I was going to save it for tomorrow, but I've got 30 of these knives, you know. And I wanted to just go over all of these. This is definitely one I really wanted to do. Very, very interesting knife. This is one of Kershaw's experimental knives. Because there's never been another knife made like this. When I say that legitimately, because this knife was made like no other knife you've ever seen. I'm going to talk about this, about why I say that in a few seconds. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at the knife before I go over the limited specs that I've got. So this is the Kershaw Offset 1597, made by Ken Onion. You can take a look at this. It's got this sort of aluminum handle on top of it. It's got this sort of paint splatter. Really cool looking. Now this is not the only version of the knife they came out with for this. They came out this in sort of, I believe they came out with it in a G10 version. Black G10 version. I think they came out also in a tan G10 version, I believe. I could be wrong about that. So the specs on this knife, the blade length of this knife is exactly 4 inches. The overall length of the knife is 9 inches. The closed length of the knife is 5.25 inches, and it weighs 7.8 ounces. It is a tip-up clip only. The blade material is 440C. Clip point recurved Tonto blade. What a weird looking knife that is. What a weird looking blade shape, right? Actually, the handle material is G10. So, you know, it's a tactical knife, basically. So, like I said, this is an experimental knife. The reason I say this knife is experimental is because the blade is made in a way that it has never ever been made before or since. About 10 years ago, they had a company called Mite, M-I-T-E, and basically they were making knives using this, what was called Mite technology. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So if I close the blade, take a look at the centering on it. It looks warped, but actually it's not warped. It's actually centered. The problem is that the knife is not made conventionally, in a sense that this knife actually started out as liquid. They took the knife and they poured the metal into a liquid mold to create this shape, and it was called Mite technology. The steel at the time, 440C, believe it or not, back in the day that was considered a super steel. Now it's considered more like, you know, medium to low medium grade steel, as in, you know, because nowadays they've got so many other steels that are 10 times better than 440C. But back then this was considered a super steel, and you can tell that they poured the metal into a mold, because take a look at the knife is also made by Ken Onion, I forgot to mention, but take a look at the Ken Onion's name. It's not written in there. It's actually molded into the blade along with the insignia right there, and where it says patent pending, that's also molded into the knife. They never did that. This is the only knife they ever made with that Mite technology. So it's kind of an interesting knife. Definitely had to be one that I had to have. It's a huge, clunky knife. It feels pretty good in the hand, but I have to admit that this lump here does not conform to your hand the way that it should. I mean, you don't even know does your index finger go here and this is supposed to be in between the space? It seems like that's the most comfortable, but what happens is your middle finger actually kind of rides over that, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a weird feeling when you're holding it. So I'm not so exactly sure that this was the right shape for this knife ergonomically. Maybe this should have been moved up, maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe a half step up this way, but it does feel kind of weird to have to hold the knife down here just to give it a comfortable grip. And, you know, as you can see, my pinky kind of falls off on it. So when this knife was actually running and people were using it, I really don't see how this could have been comfortable ergonomically. So that's one of my gripes about the knife. It's got a nice titanium pocket clip with that flame design on it. Full G10 backspacer that mimics the rest of the knife. I like the full G10 backspacer. Nice paint splatter on that knife on the back of the G10 to make it match the rest of the knife. I mean, it's a great collector's piece now, but to think that this is actually in Kershaw's lineup back in early 2000, it's easy to see why they let it, why it became discontinued after a while. I think they released it in like 2007, 2006, right around the same exact time that they released the Kershaw Tirade, which was the knife that you saw in the previous video. And if you look at both knives, look how they're kind of similar. They're both huge, they're both clunky. I mean, I'm seeing, you know, big as a beast in these knives. I'm seeing kind of ZT here a little bit. Look how big they are. You know, they're all huge. This is what Kershaw was coming out with back in the day. You know, so you could definitely see a trend going there with the Tirade up against the Kershaw Offset here. But where this is actually more seen like a regular everyday carry, you know, if you want a big clunky knife, this could be an everyday carry if you were into that kind of thing. Whereas a knife like this, I don't know, ergonomically it didn't feel right. The steel, you know, that molding, you know, the mold technology or the might technology that they made using the knife, a little, you know, not quite sure that that was going to stick around. Another thing also is the stud lock that they came out with in early 2000, which was one of their kind of inventions. You don't see this anymore on Kershaw knives, the stud lock. They're on a lot of the old Kershaw knives. It's on this knife. It's on, you know, it's on quite a few knives that Kershaw had. It'll be on another knife I'm going to show you next week. But yeah, it's a stud lock, and the way it worked was there's a spring inside here that allows the knife to act as a lock to keeping the knife open. But basically, to close the knife, you push on this, and then the knife closes. And if you look real closely, you can see there's a spring right in there, right by the stud. So basically, when you open the knife, when you flick open the knife, let's say I'm flicking it open, I flick open the knife, you see the spring, the knife kind of locks, pushes up against this part of the knife, and you can see that it's moving, and then it locks in place. The problem with the stud lock, guys, is that as time went on knives that were not built quite as solidly, the stud lock would actually give way, and then you'd have blade play. Or sometimes up and down blade play, side to side, all because the stud lock. It was a great idea in its day, but I don't think it was secure enough to keep it going, and it was replaced by the ever so popular liner lock that we know today, and of course the frame lock, which is really, really super solid. But to imagine that at a time this little screw was the only thing that was holding the knife open with a small spring inside. So stud lock, you know, good idea, gone, you know, no longer around, you know, but it prevented you from one of the reasons why the stud lock was a good idea and a good invention, it's too bad they couldn't improve on it, was the fact that when I flick open the knife, right, now it's locked open, unlike a liner lock, I don't have to go here, right, push the liner lock over and then close the knife and accidentally close the knife on my blade. So the stud lock was sort of seen as a safety measure in those days. They were actually concerned with safety a lot back then, I think, a lot with the stud lock, because you don't have to put your hand here to close the knife and then close the blade. You can just keep your hand away from the blade, simply take your thumb, push the stud lock towards, you know, the knife, and then close the blade. So it was a good idea, but they couldn't, there was no way they could improve on that, because the blade play was obviously becoming a problem with the stud lock as a mechanism to use on all their knives. But they did use the stud lock on 2, 3, I believe, like at least up to 4 knives at that time where they had the stud lock. So it was a good idea, but, you know, not really worth having in the long run just because of the blade play and all that. The reason why this doesn't have blade play, because it's a safe queen knife. I never use it anyway, but you know, that's why the stud lock went away. And again, you know, it's another reason why I love to own knives like these, to see things that have come and gone. They're not here anymore. So my technology, stud lock, that's enough of a collectible reason for me to have it. The fact that the knife was made with that my technology, where they poured the liquid into a mold and then hardened and became this shape that you see here. But, you know, I don't know if I like that. You know, that's kind of weird right there. You know, that off-centered thing. But, you know, part of the reason why I own it, part of the reason why it's in my collection, I had to have it. The Kershaw Offset 1597, again made by Ken Onion. Ken Onion was the main man back then, right? This one was number 121 out of 1,000. They made 1,000 of these. So yeah, really cool to have. Happy to have it. Not sure I would use it as an everyday carry. But again, you know, seen as a collector's piece, happy to have it. So there you have it, the Kershaw Offset, my final night really for the evening. Just showing off my Kershaw discontinued collection. Happy to share it with everybody. So this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. And once again, if you guys have a knife that you want me to review, I'll be more than happy to review it. Just make a comment on my channel. I'll privately send you my email, and you can email me. We'll talk about the details of me reviewing your knife. I promise you, if you do send me a knife, I'm going to give it back to you in the same exact way that you gave it to me. No scratches, no blemishes, no nothing. And of course, if anything does happen to the knife, I will personally pay for it myself. So this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. Saying, hope you'll find this wonderful collector's paint-splattered knife in your collection, because it does look kind of cool. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have a good evening again, and please stay safe.